Kia ora, good evening and welcome to episode 102, our second episode of the year on the Huddy Hui for 2024. We had round one of the Swindale Shield last weekend, some bumper results in particular, and one of those results in the weekend that was huge was, of course, Hutt boys Marist getting off to a flyer. We'll just wait and see if our guest has just dropped off a bit, but he'll be on very soon. But in particular, what we noticed in the weekend is that the Batoni backline, when they get going, is outstanding. The other thing too is Hutt boys look like they've recruited well in the off-season. And the other thing to notice too as well is that Orange-Torongatai look like they have going to be pretty dominant again. So we're just wrapping up getting our guests to come on. So just bear with us for a second or two. Okay, let's start this again. Welcome back to episode 102 of the Huddy Hui. What a bumper week we had. Round one of the Swindale Shield. A fantastic start indeed for quite a lot of clubs actually. In particular, Ori's beating Parramatta Plymouth again, a repeat of the Jubilee Cup final. But our first guest on tonight, well, he knows all about what actually happened with his team last weekend. They put 80 points on Wellington last weekend. He didn't get his name on the scoring sheet, but he's a real talent indeed. He's been around the traps in Wellington Club Rugby for a long time. Jordan-Glen Bradbrook is our guest on the Huddy Hui, plays in the midfield for Hutt boys Marist. Jordan, great to have you on. How season 2024 has got off to a flyer for the Eagles. Tell us about the match against the Axemen last week.
Kia ora, Brad. Thanks for having me on here. It was a great start to the season for us. At the club, this year we've decided to really stick our all into it, and we've had quite a big change at the club. And so it was a great way to start. Kia ora, Brad. Thanks for having me on here. It was a great start to the season.
So in particular, the Eagles have recruited pretty well the off-season. Who are some of the signings that you've put on the books this weekend for this year?
To be fair, we've kept the team relatively it's the same faces that we've had for a while. Some key inclusions we have had Keenan Higgins, who's just returned from Hawke's Bay, formerly of North. He's been really good to bolster the squad and bring some leadership and some, like he's played at a higher level, so it's great to have his input with us.
Keenan Higgins, a massive sign. He was one of two players to get a hat-trick last weekend for the Eagles. What's it like having him back, in particular teaming up with Zane Ainsley, who's also been on the Huddy Hui before, who's another electric player?
Yeah, like you said, I didn't get on the score sheet, but I'm pretty sure I helped those two for their hat-trick. It's been awesome playing outside Keenan. It's only been one game. But you learn a lot from someone who's had some experience at the higher level and has been around the traps just as long as I have. And for Zane, great guy, but also a great player on the field. It was exciting to watch and just try to give him the ball as much as possible so he can do his thing one-on-one with the defender. Yeah.
New coach this year. He's previously been the assistant. Tell us about Simon Maleulu. And as he steps up to the role of the head coach, what has he brought to the Eagles environment?
Yeah, well, Simon's an easy one. Simon has been with the club, I think he said since he was 19. He's played over 250 games for the club, for the Premier side. So he knows what he's talking about. He brings a lot of experience, but he also has a manner about him, and he commands respect from the actions that he does off the field. So he's brought in a different culture. He's tried to bring in something different. For us as a squad, we've always had a great squad, and we've always looked to push really hard in the Jubilee Cup and Swindale Shield in probably the last 5-6 years. But he's brought something different that can hopefully, give us a different result this time around.
As well as having a new coach, what are some of the goals for the Premier side in 2024?
Yeah, like any team that starts off in January in pre-season, the goal is always that top 7, and then to go on to that Jubilee Cup final. But for us as a squad, we have a massive squad. And there are players who have played 50, 60, 100 games who are playing senior ones at the moment. So the goal really is just to play our best and take each week as it comes, and hopefully that builds towards something bigger later on in the year.
Now, last year you actually weren't down to play. You were down over in the UK. But tell us about your travels last year. What did you get up to when you went over to the United Kingdom?
Yeah, so me and my wife, we left in December. I played for a club over there, a club called Hutt Rugby Club based in Halifax. So I went over there and played between 2016 and 2018. And then we returned for the back end of the season last year and played 3 months there. And then we spent the next 4 months traveling around Europe and enjoying ourselves. And then was able to just catch the back end of the season. So I think I came back for about 4 or 5 games. But yeah, my body probably doesn't have to.
Now tell us about playing rugby overseas over there in Halifax. How different is the rugby over there compared to here in Wellington?
Yeah, that's a good one, because the rugby is pretty much completely different, I believe. Their rugby system is different, so they have 16 tiers. So a team that starts in tier 14 can win their league and progress and can, say, get themselves to a premiership level if the money and the players are there. So it is different. The weather's different. They think differently. When we're inside our 5-metre line in the weekends, we had a call to attack and we attacked and we scored from that. Whereas in England, anything from our 40-metre back, we were just kicking and chasing and trying to put pressure on down there. Yeah.
Now, of course, you came back, as you said, to play 4 or 5 games for the Eagles and the Hardham Cup. And you mentioned the body was found a little bit different transitioning back to Wellington Club Rugby. How did you find it coming in towards the tail end of the season, coming back into the Wellington setup after playing overseas?
Well, before coming back, we spent 3 months in Europe, so my body probably, it wasn't. We did a bit of running over in Europe, but no weights or no strength work. So I was coming in, and my body was probably not up to it. It was bruised quite easily. But also, everyone's already had their game fitness throughout the season, so when I was trying to catch my breath at 20 minutes, everyone else was running around freely.
Now, let's go back and look at your early rugby career. Where did it all start for you as a young lad when you picked up the rugby ball for the first time?
I think I was 4 years old when I first played. My first rugby club was Mata. I played there as a junior until I was under 11s, where I then moved to Petone, where my friends were and where I went to school. And then from there transitioned to Scots College. I spent my 5 years of schooling at Scots College, had some great years there. When I first started there, Scots College wasn't like it is now. I think when I was year 9, we went and watched the first 15 playing the Div 3 final against Wellington College third 15. And by the time we finished, we were playing in the semi-final against Wellington College first 15, so that was a massive transition. And then from there, I went and played at Petone Rugby Club for 2 years. Spent 2 years there and then headed overseas, like I said before, spent 2 years over there, came back and decided to play with some of my best mates at Hutt boys.
Now, of course, you mentioned Scots College and down in Premier Free, but what was some of the people that were involved in making Scots College turn into the rugby program that it is today? Because when you made that semi-final against Wellington College, there were people behind the scenes that were doing a lot of the groundwork to get the team up to being a competitive rugby school.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first arrived there, in charge of rugby was Dave Mecklin, Mo Mackey, and Brant Kiriyama. So they were three major influences at the college in terms of its uprising and its positive trajectory to where we ended up and where they are now. Dave is a great Auries man, and unfortunately passed away 2 years ago now. But he led us to be the first 15 of Scots College to play in the Premier 1 division. And that was massive for the club, and that was 2011, my year 11. No, my year 10 actually, 2010. And then in 2011, he finished himself, Mo and Grant, they finished up and took the under 15s, and in my year 12 and 13, Earl Butler became coach. And so Earl Butler became coach with Grant Yarrell and Mr. Jeff Hall, and yeah, they sort of took it to that next level. And a couple of years after I left, they ended up making the national final and winning it. I think they drew and shared the trophy. Yeah.
What was your main highlight from your time in the first 15 at Scots?
There are a couple. In my year 11, we did a South American trip, and so we travelled to Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay. We spent 3 years over there. 3 weeks, sorry. Travelling, we played 5 games over there, and honestly, it was one of the best times of my life. You know, going over different country, different language, different culture, playing a sport that we love with your best friends. You know, it was amazing. One of the best times. And the other highlight was probably we won the quad final in 2012, a Presbyterian Schools quad final, which played between St. Kitts, Lindisfarne College, St. Andrews, and ourselves. And that was massive.
Now, of course, you're mostly a midfielder, but is that your preferred position, and if so, why?
Yeah. I've had a funny trajectory in the backline. So when I first debuted for Petone as a premier, I actually debuted at 9. Yeah. 2 weeks later, I started at 10, and then eventually they moved me to fullback. But since when I moved to the UK, I moved to centre, and I've stuck there since. Sometimes I get stuck on the wing, but yeah, I do prefer 13. But I'll play wherever the team needs me, pretty much. But yeah, I love it. I love being close to the action, and love having a say in what happens, and being that close to dictate terms for my team.
Yeah. 2 seasons at the Villages with Petone. Tell us about your time there at the Villages. What was the environment like when you were there? Because it seems a pretty special place with a lot of history there.
Yeah, it is a very special place. I grew up there as a child watching my father play. And then, it was only natural for me to transition based on my family heritage to go to Petone. And to be honest, I really loved my time there. I went there as a young man, so I was different then. And at the time that I left school, there were so many school leavers.
3 payment plans.
From around the country that also came to Petone at the same time. So we had the likes of Carmody Samuels, Sam McNichol, James Bowen. Then we had homegrown talent, Willie Tapui, Jack Ross, and the list goes on. So I was able to hang out with some really special players of the same age, and that's what made the culture so special there at that time.
You mentioned your father. Tell us about your father's influence on your upbringing and your rugby career.
Yeah, my dad, I think he stuck on 98 games, I think, for Tony Premiers. He never got himself on the wall. But my dad, yeah, he's a massive influence in terms of rugby and sport like that. He's always been there to help me. He's always been there to guide me. And from being a 10-year-old wanting to play cricket, and so we'd spend hours outside catching tennis balls and learning how to bowl cricket ball to tackle bags. And yeah, my dad, he never misses a game. Which, funnily enough, he missed last week's because there was that massive traffic on the motorway.
Oh.
But yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, his
yeah.
influence has been great. Yeah.
Now, of course, you moved out to, after you came back from overseas, you moved out to the Hutt Rec to play for the Eagles. How did that move come about?
So it's been a 2.5, nearly 3 years away from Wellington. So I missed my mates, and some of my best mates were playing for the club at the time. And so it was only natural for me, I'd missed them for so long that I thought, well, I'd love to play some rugby with them. And so I came across, play with some of my mates, and yeah, that's how it came about pretty much. It's been
Of course, roughly 44 games for the club. You probably know that number better than myself. But what has been your most memorable game playing for the Eagles?
That's a tough one. And 2019 was a pretty memorable year for us. We went 10 from 10 in the Swindale Shield and sort of fizzled out near the end when we probably kicked ourselves still for that. But any game during those 10 games probably stuck out for me because it was a great culture and we had a great team, and honestly it was fantastic to be a part of. But probably any McBain game, win or lose, you learn a lot about your team and about yourself. Unless you've played in one, you probably don't really understand the magnitude of the game and the intensity of it. So, yeah.
The McBain Shield, of course, what's the tensions like in your family? You've had a foot in both camps, and what's it like in the build-up to McBain Shield, like the state of origin of the Hutt Valley?
Yeah. To be honest, the first time I played in the McBain Shield for Huddy Boys, a bit of banter between dad and stuff like that. But as time's gone on, it's just, my dad will always support me. So there's no tension as such. But playing against your old mates, it's always going to be good fun and a bit of banter to come with it. So, yeah.
You scored quite a few tries for Huddy Boys, Marist, but what has been your most memorable try?
I don't know. I haven't scored one in a while, so I can't remember them.
Well, I've got one here for you. We're going back to 2019. It was called one of the tries of the season by Club Rugby. What I wanted us to do is, while it's playing, you can talk us through the video. So here we go. You're playing Porniki in 2019.
Yeah.
And you're roughly about 10 metres out, and the pass comes from Jimmy Lee. And you're going to be right down the wing. You can see Brandon Lawson out there.
Yeah.
Tell us about this moment here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if everyone's watching, you can see Paka Turia getting further away from me. No, just, yeah, well, it was a good game, that, because we were up by 35 points at one point, I believe. And we only ended up winning by about 5. But yeah, I don't even remember the try, but yeah. Pornick is always tough out there, and it's always nice to score against him. And always nice to let Papa know that you gassed him.
Can you still jump that high to get the ball?
I'm not sure if my lower back will allow me to.
Now, of course, as well as your rugby career, both Batoni, but mostly at Huddy Boys Marist, you've also represented the Wellington Maori on a number of representative games. Tell us about your years playing for the Wellington Maori, and what is your iwi?
Oh, yeah. Mo ngai tāmanu hiri ahau, I te taho toku māma, ko Ngāti Porou, ko Ngāti Toa Rangatira, ko Ngāti Mutunga, ki oku iwi, ko taho toku pāpa, ko mai tāmanuhiri, ko Ngāti Kahanunu, ki Oku Iwi. Yeah, for the Wellington Māori, it's a pretty special team to be a part of, representing your iwi, representing your whānau, and representing your city as well. For me, some of the best games of rugby I've ever played and have been for the Wellington Māori. Games against Hawke's Bay Māori or Canterbury Māori are probably some of the most intense and best games I've been a part of. But yeah, it doesn't get the recognition sometimes that it deserves, Māori rugby, and sometimes players opt of not playing. At one point in 2019, everyone put their hand up to say they wanted to play for them and sacrificed playing for other teams in order to do that. And we came away with some pretty special results as a team. But yeah, just special to represent whānau and the city as well.
Is there any other representative teams you've made over your rugby career?
No, not really. As a young guy, when I was at Tony, I played in the first under-19 side that won the football tournament, the under-19 tournament. I think it was Jobs Memorial. I think.
That's right. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Then the year after, Centurions had a under-23 squad, and then from them, just Wellington Māori.
Always have a question around whether it's be favourite player or toughest player. I'm going to ask you this one. Who's the funniest player you have played with in rugby?
The funniest?
Yeah.
Well, there's two that springs to mind, and it probably springs to mind of a lot of people. So the first one, I've played with both and played against both, and they're both terrible to play against, but very fun to be with. So Sheridan Rangihuna, he's a pretty special character. And also Khan Green as well, another special character.
Yeah.
Two guys with great skill set, but also an even greater mind to be able to try and dig into their opposition.
Yeah. Now, of course, you're back on the road again this weekend. The Hutt Rec, they have a few weeks before they let you play your home games on there. You're out against the Avalon Wolves at Fraser Park. What challenges do you see the Wolves bringing to the Eagles this Saturday?
Yeah, for us as Hutt Boys, we always find this one a little bit of a banana skin game. I think, because it's a local Hutt Valley derby, teams like Avalon like to get up against us and bring it to us, especially in the first 20, 25 minutes. It's always tough physically. And they never really go away. If you give them a sniff, they sort of just hang around until you finally put them to the sword, which sometimes is until the 78th minute, But we're just looking forward to it as a squad. Like I said, as a group, we're just trying to focus a game at a time. And so that's what we're doing. We're just hoping to put our best foot forward and everyone to do their job in order to get the result. Yeah.
What does the future hold for Jordan and rugby?
Well, this time last year, I told my wife I wasn't sure I was going to play. So I'm not sure how many more years that conversation will continue for. But at the moment, the body's good, and I'm really enjoying my rugby, and I enjoy being around the guys. So, we'll just see how we go. We take it a year at a time, and hopefully, as long as possible, because playing wise, and then after that, who knows? See what happens when we have kids and stuff like that.
Well, Jordan, it's been fantastic having you on the Huddy Hui tonight. All the best for the weekend and the rest of the season. We'll see you around the rugby fields.
Yep. No, ngā mihi nui ki a koe. Thank you very much for having me. It's been awesome, Brad, and we'll catch up soon.
Awesome. Cheers, Jordan. That is Jordan-Glen Bradbrook from Huddy Boys Marist, and what a start they had in the weekend, putting roughly 80 points on the Wellington Axemen. That was an impressive result first up as well. Now, we're going to be previewing this weekend's games as well, so we're just going to try and get that set up for you. Just seems to be just taking a while at the moment, so just bear with us for a sec as we just get this show underway. We're connecting now, and we're going to bring in Adam Julian very soon to preview this weekend's games coming up, because this is going to be quite important for the standings going forward. So we'll just quickly just change that out, and we'll just see why in which this is not wanting to talk to us, but just give us a few seconds and we'll be back very soon. All right, so we've managed to get that working. Some reason why technology didn't want to switch from one device to the other, but we're just seeing if he's going to pick up now. All right, here we go. We've got something happening here.
Hello.
Good, Adam.
How you doing?
Oh, good, thank you. It's good to have you back on the Hui. We were going to have Dave Piper on tonight, but he's a bit crook. So I've asked you to fill in again for our round two previews. In particular, what was interesting, Adam, is that you got 100% on your picks last weekend, and I got your game wrong. So you well done on that one. But we're going to look at round two. We've got some interesting matchups first. We've got Avalon versus Hutt. Our guest Jordan-Glen Bradbrook is playing in that game. And they often rate that as a tricky game for them. Your thoughts on Avalon versus Hutt Old Boys Marist?
Well, it is a local derby. They're not far away from each other. Hutt Rec beside St Bernard's and Fraser Park in the heart of the Nainai and Taita area. Avalon well beaten by Wainuiamata last Saturday, and Hutt Old Boys Marist the biggest winners, with some notable names, including your guest and Keenan Higgins back thriving. He scored 3 tries. The Hutt pack looks mature, strong and settled, so I expect the Eagles to win.
Of course, Zane Ainsley got a hat-trick as well in that game too. Second game is Johnsonville Hawks versus Northern United. Now, until sort of last year, North sort of won this game, but Johnsonville last year were a revelation, and they probably were unlucky not to beat OBU in the weekend. I think Johnsonville at home, back at Helston Park, will be a tough assignment for Northern United. Your thoughts?
I agree. The most exciting thing about Johnsonville last year and again this year is the formidable backline they possess. Last Saturday, the backline against the Students was Mark Sutton, terrific halfback, who must have gone close to winning the Billy Wallace Best and Fairest Award. Andrew Ellis, the veteran, he played for Auries. Jacob Kennedy scored a try on debut. He's a very good prospect out of Wellington College. He scored a hat-trick in the famous quad fighter win against Whanganui Collegiate last year. Oliver Batonu's won Jubilee Cups at Old Boys University. Kusa Tuitama is a flyer. Finlay Sharp, a new name, he scored 2 tries, and Jacob Wormsley, a Centurion at fullback. That is electric. So if Johnsonville can get good ball and utilise that talent, then I suspect that they'll beat a Northside who are just struggling at the moment.
I agree too as well. And they had a tough weekend against Marist St Pat's. Now, speak about Marist St Pat's. They're taking on their fellow eastern suburb rivals, Oriental Rongotai. You commentated Ori's last weekend. They had a pretty dominant display. Marist might be at home, but I think Ori's they're a fine outfit, aren't they, Adam?
Well, I think this will be a real tussle in the forwards, Brad. Oriental Rongotai impressive in repeating their Jubilee Cup final success against Parramatta Plymouton. They won 29-24, but they were ahead 29-12. At no stage of the match did they trail, and Auries have some real size up front, and then two exceptional young Wellington Lions, Dominic Ropeti and Sione Halalilo, in the loose forward jumpers, and those two were very effective against the Hammerheads. And then out wide, Daniel Tarfili was very dazzling at fullback, and Alec Ropeti very assured at first five. So Auries are a team that know what they're about. They've won 7 in a row, which is their best run since they won 13 in a row way back in 2013, and that was their golden era where they made 3 consecutive Jubilee Cup finals, winning famously in 2011. But the Marist St Pat's forward pack, in unpicking Norse, who aren't a bad forward pack at all, Brad. Norse had Blake Rogers, Jerome Ba'ai, Luca Reese and Callum Watts-Pointer, are all familiar names to Wellington Club Rugby supporters. But that MSP forward pack, Meinrad Fitzimanu, Vince Zakaria, who's played for the Wellington Lions, Amon Carr, big lad across from Tawa, James Zeno, who's returned after a spell away, and the captain is also in the forwards along with Keelan Whitman. That's a powerful front row for Marist St Pat's, and out wide young Francis Mefferick adds some flair at fullback. So I think that's going to be a tight tussle, and historically Auries have struggled to conquer MSP, so I'm tipping the opposite way, Brad. I've got to stay ahead of you somehow.
No, you got to. We could even it out. Now, the Huddy Sports feature game this weekend is Batoni versus Upper Hutt. Last year's game was an absolute blockbuster, played in perfect conditions at Maidstone Park. It was a high-scoring affair with Upper Hutt narrowly winning that day. Upper Hutt had a close victory over the Paniki out there at the opening of their new club rooms, but Batoni were on fire in their backline last weekend. I think Batoni at home will be too hard to beat. What's your thoughts, Adam?
Well, Stanley Solomon, last year's best and fairest winner, scored 2 tries in that game, and today he was selected in the New Zealand under-20 team. So congratulations to Stanley and his fantastic rugby-mad parents, Erin Rush and Nigel Solomon. He's really thriving as young Stanley, driving a backline that also has TJ Clark. Regards to Tom Carter, who took a nasty head knock in that game. We hope that Tom is recovering swiftly. Upper Hutt had a narrow victory against Porneki last Saturday. Tynan Barrett, another very good first five, kicked a last-minute penalty. That'll be a close game between two sides who play a similar style of rugby, but I suspect Batoni might have a little bit too much firepower on their bench. Braith Ingram debut. He's the captain of Gisborne Boys High School last year, a very good player. Cam Pereira replaces Logan Henry, and that's a lot of energy. And Emery McGill, he scored 2 tries on Saturday at the game you broadcast, Tower. He's against Tower on Saturday, Brad. And Emery McGill, it sounds like a Coen Brothers movie.
It certainly does, doesn't it? A bit of a... I'm sure I've seen it in a Coen film before, but you might be right about that. You watch more movies than me. Next game, well, both these teams lost last weekend. Tawa, Parramatta, Plymouton. Tawa at home, it's always a tough place to play, but Parramatta, Plymouton, it's a bit like a bit of a Pairua East sort of, what do you call it, a state of origin battle, this one. I'm going to go Parramatta, Plymouton, but Tawa will be a much improved side after their loss last weekend.
Big names in that Tawa forward pack too. Join it now, Lofa, Siali, Lawaki, Akiri, Iramia, Hema Framana. So I disagree. Parramatta, Plymouton, a very good side. I really like Essie Komavasai shifting into first five last week. He was electric, scored 2 tries. Things really started to happen when Parramatta, Plymouton made that switch. But they just looked a bit skinny in the forwards, though Tane McMillan-Parada, their terrific captain, was lion-hearted as usual. James Corcoran is back, and the Coburns, of course, will relish the challenge of playing their former club. They won Jubilee Cups at Tawa, but it's a tough ask to go to Lyndhurst Park against a Tawa side who are smarting and very often don't lose by 37-10. That's a huge embarrassment, really, for Tawa in recent seasons.
Oh, exactly. And, of course, this is another game that OBU won't like, and they have to travel over the hill to Wainui-a-Mara. Wainui-a-Mara, a much improved side, and they've got the luxury of Andrew Wells at first five, who can also play fullback as well, a reliable goal kicker. But I think in terms of fitness, I think OBU might hold out in this game. But as we talked about Lyndhurst Park, Adam, William Jones is a tough place to play.
It certainly is, and Wainui-a-Mara definitely improved from last year, and some notable names have returned. Dion and Greg Leolofi, wonderful to see them back in green and black. Renata Katohi, 2 tries last Saturday. Tyler Tane, 13 points. He's been around a while. Campbell Cowie at fullback. So they've got a good balance, Wainui-a-Mara, between their historically earnest and abrasive forwards and their whippet outside backs. A little bit more zest about their backline this year. Old Boys University, though, they've got no problem scoring points. 41 against Johnsonville, and Callum Harkin back in the 10 jersey. He got injured last year, and I suspect that was a big reason why the students didn't win the Jubilee Cup. He was such an influential player, and he would have been invaluable in their assault for a finals berth. Remember, they only lost the semi-final to Parramatta Plimpton by a point. The OBU forward pack, it's athletic, it's mobile, and there's a couple of really good young players in there. Dougal Perez, who impressed us last year from Australia, and Boston Hunt. Well, he's not young anymore, but he was playing number 8, the Jim Brown medalist from 2 years ago. Lock that day, he won that accolade. So good versatility and variety and skill in the Old Boys University forward pack. And I agree with you, they might hang on narrowly at William Jones Park.
And the last game is the Wellington X-Men taking on Pōneke. Pōneke narrowly losing to Wellington, to Upper Hutt last weekend. Wellington, unfortunately, didn't go off to a great flyer. They're at home again, Wellington. But another eastern suburb state of origin, but I think Pōneke will be too strong.
Absolutely. It was not a great result at all for Wellington last Saturday. We were optimistic that with some new recruits, they might strengthen their fortunes. Unfortunately, 81-7 doesn't suggest that's going to happen anytime soon. And Pōneke were right in the fight against Upper Hutt, who, remember, last year were eliminated from semi-final contention after the regulation 80 minutes. They conceded a rather unfortunate penalty, and Oriental Rongotai went on to win the Jubilee Cup. So that was a good start for Pōneke, who have Nick Robinson at fullback, the prolific try scorer, dotted down again on Saturday. Carlos Hihi is a part of the Gisborne contingent that's migrated to Wellington this season. He's a gifted first five, and with Defin Sopoanga, like Wainui-a-Mara, they have a vibrant backline. And with Pōneke, well, there's a reason why they're called the Street Kids. You know, you're always going to get a very honest and abrasive front row, and Pōneke, with that and their backs, should be too good for Wellington.
I agree as well. And of course, tomorrow we've actually got a first 15 pre-season game tomorrow. You're going to go out and watch it. Unfortunately, I'm stuck at work. It's St. Pat's Silverstream taking on Fielding Boys High School. You've been getting ready to preview college rugby for the year. Your thoughts on this pre-season game? It's going to be Silverstream's first hit out under their new coach, John Herbert.
Well, John Herbert's been in the Silverstream rugby fraternity for the best part of a decade now. He's an expert in arms with the police, and yes, he is a formidable character with a profession like that. He really has worked hard on their scrum, and 2 years ago he was running the forwards who dismantled St. Pat's Town on a memorable day in the final at Jerry Collins Stadium. Silverstream have lost several forwards from last year, and Ollie Cuff, who has gone across to Old Boys University, the influential halfback, but They're optimistic that Thomas Tukapua at first five will push hard for representative honours. He played a blinder in the final last year. Silverstream was down 29-10 and he set up 3 tries as they almost erased the deficit. Fielding's a tough opposition though, and they're more prepared at this stage of the season than Silverstream will be. They've already had 2 pre-season games, Brad. They beat Wellington College at Lyndhurst Park by 24-19, and then last Saturday they destroyed New Plymouth Boys High School 41-7. That's a very telling result. And the fielding team are the Central North Island champions. That's a strong competition which features 10 schools, including the likes of St Paul's Collegiate and Lindisfarne and St Peter's Cambridge, which is Cam Roygaard's alma mater. And so Fielding High School come well prepared to take on Silverstream in a game that's been going since 2003. So there's some heat and history in the contest. And the other thing that's interesting from a local perspective regarding Fielding High School is that Nathan Williams is their back coach. Nathan Williams won a Hardham Cup with Upper Hutt. He won 3 Hankin Shields with Fielding Yellow. So he's a very accomplished coach. And I met him at the Wellington College game. He's very excited about his team. The Fielding fullback is one to watch. He was a New Zealand under-18 sevens pick last year.
Oh, fantastic. And that looks like it's going to be a greater game tomorrow as well. So, well, Adam, we've gone different again on some of our picks. So we'll see how we go on Saturday afternoon. But all the best for the weekend, Adam, and many thanks for coming back on again to preview the rounds.
No hassle. Looking forward to seeing more rugby.
Yes, that is the Adam Julian of Club Rugby. He's been a regular on our show over the years as well. So it's great having Adam doing his predictions. Been called up at late notice again. Well, this Saturday, it is Petone versus Upper Hutt live on Huddy Sports YouTube. This Saturday kicks off at 2:45. We'll start our coverage roughly around 2:35. So we look forward to bringing you that game again. We broadcast that game last year. And if it's anything like last year's game, it's going to be an absolute thriller. So make sure you're watching that on Huddy Sports YouTube this weekend as well. Now, next Wednesday, episode 103, we have already got our guests lined up. And our guest next weekend is a former Wellington Lion who now plays his trade out of the Hawke's Bay Magpies. Sam Smith is going to be our guest on the Huddy Hui. We've been trying to get him on for quite a while, but we finally pinned him down. So Wednesday next week at 7 o'clock, Sam Smith is going to be on the Huddy Hui. So make sure you're tuning in for that one. Just a reminder also, if you're willing to help sponsor Huddy Sports, we're growing quickly. We've got a few impending announcements to make in the next week or two or more, so about more games we could be covering. So if you're looking to help us out, please do so. And we're very much grateful to our sponsors back again this year, Louise Reddy from New Zealand Travel Brokers and Michael Pinfold Plumbing and Drain Laying. So make sure you give them a shout out, and they ask how you heard of them. You mention Huddy Sports and the Huddy Hui. So make sure you help them. They're fine people that support rugby around the Wellington region. Well, that is the Huddy Hui for tonight. We'll see you for our next episode Wednesday next week. But before that, make sure you're watching the live stream between Petone and Upper Hutt from the Petone Rec live on Huddy Sports YouTube. I'm Brad Hudson. Ciao for now.